Welcome to A History Mystery. Here at the museum, we get questions all the time about local history. Recently, we were asked if there were any Revolutionary War veterans who lived in Thomas County. Since this weekend is the 4th of July, let's answer this question and do a deep dive into one of these veterans. Over the years, our curator Ephraim has gone through the many files of our archives to look for possible Revolutionary War veterans. Here's the list. It looks like 14 veterans of the Revolutionary War once lived in Thomas County. This one looks interesting. Shadrach Pugh. Let's see what we can find out about him. Let's start with what we know. His name is Shadrach Pugh, and he lived in Thomasville, but died on a trip to Alabama. What does Ancestry know about Shadrach? Let's start in the search section. First name Shadrach, last name Pugh. We don't know his birth year, so we'll have to guess based on what we know. He's a veteran of the American Revolution, which took place from 1775 to 1783, so we can guess that he was probably born somewhere around 15 to 20 years before the war began. That would be around 1755. Thomas County still belonged to the Muskogee people then, so he couldn't have been born here. We'll just leave the location blank for now. We know he lived in Thomasville at some point, so we can enter this field. The town was founded in 1830, so let's use that for the lived-in date. Now we know he died on a trip to Alabama, but we don't know the year. If we think he was born in 1755, then he would be 75 in the year 1830 when we think he would have lived in Thomasville. So let's guess he lived another 10 years until 1840. Shadrach was a common male name in the 18th century, and from what we know of Thomasville, he probably identified as white. Let's see what we'll find. Solomon Walker Peak, not even close. Let's see what else they have. Here we go, a census from 1830. There's a Shadrach Pugh living in Thomasville along with 10 other people. This is a good start. We can take this information and start our Ancestry profile for our friend Shad. Now let's go back to that search page. Frank, Sydney, not much else about Shadrach Pugh, so let's go old school. At the museum we have a very handy book, The Pine Barrens, Thomas County Families, 1826 to 1925. This book contains information about some of the families that have lived in Thomas County. Maybe someone did some research on Shadrach and his family. Here he is on page 379. Shadrach Pugh. It says he was born in 1759 in Bertie County, North Carolina, and died in August of 1842 in Barber County, Alabama. Well, that's pretty close to what we guessed. The book says he was also married to a woman named Barbara Carroll, and together they had 14 children. Let's see if we put this information into Ancestry. What will we find? Thanks to the magic of television, we have that information plugged into Ancestry's search tools and found some documents related to Shadrach. Here he is and 3 other census records, all in North Carolina. Looks like he was also part of the 1827 land lottery in Georgia. As the newly founded United States began to expand into former Native American territory, the land was divided and distributed through a lottery system. Thomas County was part of this land distribution, but it looks like Shadrach won land in Muskogee County. That's about 145 miles north of here. Traveling long distances seems to be a big part of Shadrach's life. And see what other people have found about Shadrach. Here's an application for his military pension. It lists his legal heirs, 13 kids. That sounds about right. Here's the original document on the site Fold 3, a military-focused site of Ancestry. This is a lot of legalese and cursive handwriting, so let's sum it up. In 1832, Congress passed an act to pay a pension to veterans of the American Revolution, and Shadrach made an application, but was denied. Later, in 1855, Shadrach's children got together to ask the government to acknowledge their father's military service during the American Revolution and pay his pension. Shad signed up as a volunteer in 1780 and served for 3 months in the cavalry. The next year he signed up again as a substitute and served another 3 months. The state of North Carolina couldn't seem to find these records at the time, which is a little odd. What else do we have? This looks interesting, a change of name. In 1806, Shadrach legally changed his last name from Hinton to Pugh, and did the same for all his children. Maybe that's why his records couldn't be found for his pension. A quick search of the name Shadrach Hinton didn't reveal anything new or related to our Shadrach, and looking back through his census records, he went by the last name Pugh even before he had it legally changed. This mystery may have to wait for now. That was a lot to take in, so let's do a quick review. There were quite a few veterans of the American Revolution living in Thomas County back in the 1800s. One of them was named Shadrach Pugh, or Hinton, or Pugh. Shad was a volunteer who rode around on a horse for 3 months fighting the British before rejoining the Americans a year later to fight again. He later married a lady named Barbara and had enough children to form their own basketball team. For reasons yet unknown, he changed his last name, and his kids' names too. Shad won some land in Muskogee County, Georgia, but lived down south in Thomas County. He tried to get his pension from the government, but they didn't believe him. After his death, Shad's children asked the government for his pension and showed that 13 is better than 1 when it comes to asking for help. Our friends got their dad's military service recognized and received the pension he was promised. What a story! If you thought this story was interesting, join us at the museum to learn about even more interesting people who lived in Thomas County. Have a great weekend!